As if being a working mom isn't hard enough, try throwing pumping in the mix. As I'm coming to the end of my pumping journey, I have just a few things that I want to remember, some lessons learned, and I thought it'd be nice to make a video, and hopefully this can help somebody else. Maybe you are coming into your pumping journey, maybe you're expecting a little one. So here's some things that I did and some lessons learned, and hopefully this helps someone else. First is the type of pump. Now, as I was pumping and going to work, the easiest type of pump was one that fit discreetly inside my bra. That was nice because I could use it on the way to work, could wear pretty much any of my normal work outfits, and I didn't have to undress in order to pump at work. So if you're able to get one that's kind of conformed to your breast and fits inside your bra, I think that would be what I would recommend. I don't think you have to have the pump attached to this part. I know those type get pretty expensive. This seemed to work really well for me. Here are the other pieces. Here's a basic pump 101. The actual pump machine is in here, and then you connect the tubes with the air to these pieces. And these pieces would sit inside your bra and collect the milk. I really liked this system. These are the Freemie. I actually got them free with my insurance. I really liked them. They're hard plastic all around, but the pump part actually stopped working. The connector to charge it got messed up, and so I couldn't charge it. Otherwise, I really liked that pump, but I ended up getting this one on Amazon for like $40. And then this pump also came with other cups, but I didn't like those as well. Part of it was silicone. But I can get into that in another video. I would take these to work. I could charge this with a simple USB, either in the car while I was using them. I could even plug it into my computer while I was waiting between pumps. When would I pump? After I dropped my daughter off at daycare, I would pump on my drive to work. I have quite a long commute. I really didn't need to pump for the entire time. So sometimes I would pump for 15 minutes and then I would rest for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I might pump for the remainder of the drive, and I'd get a couple more ounces. Taking that small break between pumps is a really good way to help you get just a little bit more. And then, like I said, in the morning is usually the largest pump of your day. Early on, when my daughter was only drinking breast milk, I would pump more often, every 2 to 3 hours. So I might pump on my drive in between 8 and 9. A few hours later, maybe around 11 before lunchtime. Maybe again at like 1 or 2. A little after lunch, I might take lunch during one of those, or if I was able to have a separate lunch. And then I would pump on my way home. First, I didn't like pumping on my way home because when she'd see me, she would immediately want to nurse, and I didn't want to be empty. I wanted to have something for her. But then I worked with a daycare, and they gave her a bottle right before I got her, and it ended up perfect. She would have the bottle on our drive home, and then we could nurse a little later in the evening. And your employer should have a place for you to pump. Some private place where you're able to pump, and it shouldn't be in the bathroom. One of our mother's rooms is a room inside the bathroom, but it's not a stall in the bathroom. I wouldn't go in the bathroom to prepare my food and eat my food, so I'm not going to go in the bathroom in a stall and prepare my baby's food. It is hard when you have a bigger workplace and you have other mothers there who are needing to use that nursing room. Hopefully you can come up with a system where you either book it like a conference room, maybe you can sign up for different times. I remember there was one day early on, and I only knew about one of the nursing rooms at this time. I had gone in there and it was actually in use, and I kept going in there and it kept being in use, and I had to pump, and so I was actually sitting on the stall crying, pumping, and you shouldn't have to do that. There were 2 nursing rooms that my work had. One of the rooms I didn't really like. It did lock, which I appreciated that. It was just like a gross orange painted room with one sad little chair and a table. But that's all I needed. That was fine. The other room that we had, it was nicer. You could actually book it as a conference room. It didn't lock. There was just a little sign on the door that you could put vacant or occupied, so that made me feel a little uncomfortable. But that room was really nice. It did have a fridge, so I could leave stuff in there if I wanted. It had a sink, so I could clean my parts there. It had a couch, and again, a little table and an outlet. So a little bit nicer. Sometimes I just preferred to pump in my car and go get lunch and take a little break and kind of be outside of work. I kind of talked about this a little bit, but how long do you pump? It took me a while to kind of figure out how long my body needed to empty my breasts completely. You want to make sure that you empty everything completely so that your supply keeps up. So your body thinks, baby needed all the milk, let's keep making that much. Otherwise, your supply can drop if you don't empty all the way. I found that 15 minutes was all I needed if I was using both pumps at the same time. I might get more than 7 ounces in the morning total, but generally throughout the day for my normal pumps, I would get about 4 ounces total, which was perfect. That's how much she ate during one meal. So I would just make sure and have about 3 or 4 pumps throughout the day. I will say sometimes pumping took a little bit longer, especially if you're stressed. It seems like the milk just does not flow as well. Maybe if you're sick, maybe if you're dehydrated. Sometimes I would get to the 15 minutes and I would see that I didn't have as much as I expected, although I had waited a couple hours between the prior pump. Sometimes it just took me a little more to relax and get my body in the right mindset. Most importantly, is remember to take time to pump. I set reoccurring alarms on my phone Monday through Friday, same time, because there would be days that I would just be going back-to-back meetings and it was really hard to step away for even 15 minutes. If you have to, put something on your work calendar, but make sure you take that time. And as a working mom, you have to be flexible in everything. So you might not be able to pump every day at 8, 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m. You might have to move those windows, but do the best you can and make sure you take that time. There were some days that I actually missed a session, and not only was it disappointing because you're worried about your supply, you're stressed out that your supply is going to take a hit, but it was really painful because I missed that window. It is so hard as a working mom, not only to step away from your computer or turn those email notifications off, but to mentally stop thinking about your workload and to focus on your baby. It is so important during that time when you are pumping, especially at the beginning. I started a little Instagram. It was private, and during my pump sessions, I might upload more videos and pictures, and I would take that time to just think about her. You could also do that on your phone as a personal album. It really helped me to stay in that mindset and to think about her, and that just really helps your letdown. And when I first went back to work, I missed my baby so much. It broke my heart to leave her while I was driving away from daycare. And I was at work pumping, I was crying, and that actually helps. Like, crying actually helps your letdown. So if you're feeling sad, let it out. It'll be okay. It'll get better. It's okay to miss your baby. Obviously, in this instance, working from home was a lot easier. I was able to pump wherever I wanted. I could even pump while working. I would not recommend that at first. Like I said, that kind of interrupted my supply. My flow was a lot slower. Early on, I really needed to focus in order to get my supply going. But after a while, it was a lot easier, and I was actually able to work while I was pumping. You probably just don't want to do conference calls while you're pumping. It's really obvious. Some of these pumps are pretty loud, and especially don't go on videos. Let's talk about cleaning the parts. At home, obviously this was a lot easier. I've got my kitchen right here. I have my sink and soaps, my drying rack, everything that I need. This is ideal. At work, I didn't really have a good spot to clean and keep my stuff. I wasn't comfortable keeping it in that room that didn't lock. It was right through the copy room that everybody used, so I was a little uncomfortable with that. And then we did have a sink a little closer to my workspace, but it had terrible water pressure and the water didn't get hot. So I tried to clean my parts there once and it was a nightmare. And people use that sink for their food, and I'm using it to clean my breast milk, so that was a little weird. So I didn't do that anymore. So when I pumped at work and I was cleaning my parts, I would take a paper towel and I would clean all the excess milk out. And then I actually used these wipes that are specific for breast pump parts. These are the wipes that I would use. They're by Medela, but there's a couple other brands that I actually used and I saw. There were some eco-friendly ones. There's different ones you can find, but they're specific for breast pump parts. I would wipe it out with a paper towel, then I'd wipe them down with one of these, make sure to get it all clean. And then the directions say that you need to wait 10 minutes before using, just to let everything dry and make sure you don't have any of the liquid residue of the wipes on your pump parts getting into your milk. Sometimes I forgot to clean the parts and I had to hurry out the door. So if I was in a rush after I wiped these, then I would take a clean paper towel and I would wipe down the liquid from these wipes. If I wasn't in a rush, then I actually just left them on my desk on a paper towel to dry. And then later, whenever I went to use them again, I would put them all together. Now I have my own desk at work. It's a common space, so everyone could see what was on my desk. I couldn't care less if they saw my pump parts. If that makes you uncomfortable, or maybe you don't have a desk or a personal space that you can just leave them out. I was very fortunate to have that. So in that case, I would say clean them while you're in the mother's room or in your car pumping, and then put them back in your bag for next time. I never used the method of storing my pump parts in the fridge. It just, a couple of reasons. One, it made me nervous. I was very wary of anything maybe a little bit unsanitary. I wanted to be very careful with everything I did. I know it works for some women. I've heard some horror stories. Otherwise, I just didn't want to mess with it. But the second reason, I tried a few different bags to bring everything in, my pump parts, the milk. You have so much stuff as a pumping mom. You are the bag lady now. I tried to put my pump parts in my little freezer bag that I stored the milk in. Oh, and they were so cold whenever I put them on. So I don't know how you women do it. I couldn't. I didn't do that. So I would not recommend that, but that's me. Honestly, washing them wasn't that bad, especially with those wipes. I want to talk about storing the milk because I tried this a few different ways and I finally got a system going that I really liked. When I was able to work from home, I would actually store the milk in the bottles that I would bring to daycare with her the next day. That was perfect. That was my favorite. Obviously, I didn't have to dirty any extra dishes and everything was ready to go for the next day. But when I was at work, I didn't really want to carry 4 bottles around. I had a tiny fridge. It didn't have a lot of space in it. So at first, I actually used these bags. They're just milk storage bags. They come sealed for sanitary reasons. You rip them open whenever you're going to pour the milk into it, and then it's a one-time use bag. You write your name or baby's name, the date, and the amount of milk that you pour in here, which was always kind of difficult to figure out, but do your best. So when I was at work, I was actually putting milk in these, and I would take them home and then I'd pour them into the bottles for the next day. And I was just going through these like nobody's business. Then what I did, I have large bottles, and she wasn't drinking out of these large bottles. She was only drinking 4 ounces at a time. As your baby gets older, your breast milk actually changes to adapt with them, which is really cool. So 4 ounces that you were feeding them at the beginning isn't as filling as in 6 months. Your 4 ounces is going to go a lot further. At least that's what I've heard. So I would take one of these bottles, these large ones, and then a smaller bottle, which was the normal one she would drink out of, and I'd fill it up as much as I could, fill this one up as much as I could, and generally this would get me my 2 or 3 pumps throughout the day. And then my final pump of the day, I would have that as I was driving home, still in my pump, and then when I got home, I would pour it into another bottle. So that was my favorite way of doing it. Then I only had 1 extra bottle to clean. It was these big ones, and I would just use 4 of these throughout the week, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday I did something a little different. But I also kept these in my pump bag at my desk. I think I might have kept it some in my car just in case I pumped a little extra, or maybe if I forgot these bottles, because sometimes I did that. It was nice to have these on hand just in case I needed them. I would do this Monday through Thursday, but Friday, because I had the weekend and then she wouldn't go to daycare again until Monday, I would actually put the milk in these storage bags and I would put them in the freezer over the weekend, and I would use the oldest frozen milk, and these would go into the rotation. This is actually the little fridge that I had brought to work. Like I said, it doesn't fit very much. I could fit a couple bottles. I might be able to fit my freezer packs because I noticed that those didn't keep very long. And I would just store those in there, make sure and get it before I left work that day. I found that this was a lot better for me because the freezer packs that I had, they didn't keep cold very long, especially when I was taking stuff out, putting stuff in. So I really appreciated having this, although it was really tiny, so I had to really stuff things in there. But this helped so much. I think it was like 30 or 40 bucks at Walmart. Honestly, such a valuable purchase. If you can have one of these, I would recommend. Now the big question is, when do you start pumping? When do you start saving milk? When do you start freezing milk? That was so difficult because during your maternity leave or during that time when you're home with your baby needs your milk. You are feeding your baby. You don't have that extra milk, or do you? Now, if you're supplementing with formula, that might make it a little easier to build up your breast milk stash, but I was not, and I was not an overproducer. I literally made just enough milk for my baby. I don't know exactly when I started, but here's a few tools that you can use to start right away, and it shouldn't interfere with what your baby's needing. So here's a few things that I really liked. This is a Haka manual pump. This was nice if you had a clogged duct or whatever, but it was also great to catch the letdown on one side after you're finished eating on that side and baby was eating on the other side. It was kind of difficult. Just imagine you've got this on, you got baby here, where's baby's feet going? And you can't really attach it sideways. You could, I tried, but then like you gotta like keep tipping it so the milk, it was a whole ordeal. This is really nice though. It really did a good job of catching that letdown. It did a good job of manually pumping it out. So I would highly recommend getting one of these and get a stopper and use the stopper. My sister-in-law actually got this for me. She is an angel. I had no idea what I was getting into with all this breastfeeding and nursing journey. She actually gave me a lot of stuff to get started and it was so helpful. But just remember to use the stopper. I can't tell you how many times this knocked over. I lost an ounce and that is an ounce of pure liquid gold. I absolutely cried over spilled milk, and that's okay. This one is a little better to catch the letdown after you feed while you're feeding baby on the other side, because this one isn't as in the way. This is more for manual pumping, but it also can catch the letdown. You just have to kind of work around it. It's Haka also, it's a little ladybug. If you have this little tab in, it'll actually kind of suction and pull milk out too. I think this one only held a couple ounces, but you can get ones that are bigger that hold more ounces. I only got one, but again, you could get one for each side. This was really nice too. I got some of these that are similar concept, but not quite. It's just kind of a little bowl shape. It has a silicone ring that you attach to it. This one does not keep suction, so I don't think it did as good of a job as pulling milk out, but this will catch your letdown. You could just keep these in your bra and catch the letdown and start building your freezer stash. So that I think would be the best way to start building a freezer stash if you are not an overproducer. You may be making more than you think. And there were times where after baby was done eating on one side, I would switch her to the other side and then I would catch like a 1/4 ounce. And if you're feeding 8 times throughout the day, add that up and you've got a good freezer stash. So you kind of have to make a point to do it, but here's some good tools that I think would really help starting out. Once you have a freezer stash and you're really like pumping and getting going, it's a lot easier to just keep a little extra. Maybe you make an extra ounce here or there and just save that and kind of build up your stash. That is how I made it through my working pumping journey. It was tough, physically, emotionally, mentally, but you can do it. You're not alone. Hopefully these tips help somebody else. These are just things that I did, but maybe you'll find something that works better for you. Just know that you are an incredible mom. You are doing the best that you can. You are amazing. You can do it. I hope this video helps somebody else. I know I am definitely going to be referencing it whenever I have to do this journey again. If you have any other tips that helped you or anything that you did during your pumping journey, let me know below. I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad you were here. I will see you next time.